Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. You can go ahead and scan the QR code that is on your screen. That will allow you to check into the meeting. We'll go over how to submit questions and answers as well in just a few minutes.
Start at 8:02.
Yeah, we'll get started at 8:02, Danny. While folks are getting settled and watching our stream, they can go ahead and check in on the QR code that's on their screen. They can also head over to camp.wanocksett.org, download the Leaders Guide or view the Leaders Guide. That will be available for folks. Looks like we have about maybe 50 or 60 people joining us at the moment. The numbers are still going. So we'll give them all a chance to check in with the QR code on their screen. And we'll also send that out to unit leaders after the fact as well.
I'm sure you said it, but the QR code takes us to
this QR code that you're seeing on the screen right now takes you to just a check-in screen, so we can know what unit leaders, what units are joining us live tonight for our broadcast. We will be sending out a updated contact information to our unit leaders, all of our unit leaders, not just those who show up tonight. We'll be sending that out in about a week or so to verify dates of camp and the summer camp contact. If you know that there's a summer camp contact change in your unit, you can go ahead and email us info@camp.wanocksett.org before we send that out, and we'll make sure we get that changed in our system. Like I said earlier, the Leaders Guide is available online at camp.wanocksett.org, along with a direct link to the QR code website that you have on your screen right now. We'll maybe give it another minute or so, Danny. We're seeing a lot of folks joining live on YouTube. Looks like it's 8:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Throughout the evening, every single slide will have this QR code. It's a different QR code than the first one you saw. This is going to allow you to submit questions to us. Those questions are going to go to Nick O'Connell. Nick O'Connell, why don't you go ahead and say hello?
Hey, everyone.
Nick is going to be our assistant program director this year. He's going to monitor the incoming questions, and he'll interject throughout the meeting tonight any questions you have. If you don't know how to scan the QR code, you can also go to the camp website and get to that website, to that form, or you could simply email Nick, kickoff@camp.wanocksett.org. So again, that QR code will be on every single slide, available throughout the entire evening, or just go to the camp website and the link is there as well. Looks like we got about 100 people, Danny, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll toss it over to you.
All right. Well, welcome. We're pretty excited to be here with you tonight. We have a full team. Our scout exec is on the call. Our camping director is on the call. Our nurses are on the call. Our Weeblos director. We'll get to everyone in a bit, but my name is Danny Megan. I'm the camp director. And like I said in the letter, I am so proud to be the director at Camp Wanocksett and to be with you tonight. Andy is the assistant camp director. The assistant program director is the chat master tonight. Andy, you didn't use the term chat master, but he is the chat master. We have an incredible program director, rolling Rachel out tonight officially. Rachel Schreivogel, next slide. The director of programs for Camp Wanocksett this year, Nick O'Connell, the assistant. Fun fact, these two have worked in every program area at Camp Wanocksett -1. We're not telling you which one. It might be on the Camp Wanocksett 100th trivia for adult leaders this summer, but they are incredibly skilled. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel. Tonight is a lot about program, but thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing Wanocksett. We have a bunch of troops this summer, about 124 troops. Just had an inquiry last night from Maine, and we have some folks coming from Florida, so all over 7 states, as far south as Florida. So thank you, thank you. Let's go, Rachel.
Right. Thanks, Danny, for that warm introduction. I'm excited to get to be with you guys all for that 100th anniversary, especially in this new position. So we're coming at you with some program stuff. So our schedule this year is going to look pretty consistent to how it's looked in the past. And if you're new to us, that's going to be 3 merit badge periods a day. So scouts will sign up. They'll select 1 merit badge for period A or one for 2, and 1 for 3. All scouts are able to get their first choice of merit badges. And those merit badge times are separated with some open program and some patrol time activities as well. So this is our usual daily schedule for Monday through Friday. So some new highlights, we've made some big purchases over the off season. The first one is with thanks from the George McGee Memorial Fund. We have a new motorboat that will be hitting our shores this summer. So it's an 18-foot ski boat with a new Mercury engine. And so what this is going to mean for us is that we are always going to have 2 motorboats in use for program, for merit badges, for tubing, and then we're also going to have 1 motorboat that's always in reserve. So if we have an engine go out or anything that we need someone to come in and look at it, we'll be able to swap that motorboat out and still have program go on per usual. At the end of last season, we also made an investment about 7 to 8 bikes. With our bikes, we are looking at more consistent repairs through this season. But a note on that as well, if you have a scout that wants to do the triathlon and is very, let's say, competitive in spirit and wants to place, we're encouraging them to bring their own bike as well. If they are someone that's an avid cyclist, and they know their bike the best, and the ones at camp are just loaners and more one size fits all. We've also invested in a plethora of tents coming up this year. So we'll have a lot of new tents for campers to be able to utilize. Okay. So some of the program offerings, one of the things I really want to highlight is the high return rate of senior staff. When we look at our senior staff, all of them have worked at Camp Wanocksett before, whether they're returning from the 2023 season or they're returning from a few season offs. They've all worked with us before. The next slide, which we'll get to in a minute, will show some familiar faces and what I think is completely incredible, the amount of time that they've invested with us and the years that we have of experience with our senior staff. We're also continuing to invest and grow our crew program. So for crews that were with us last year, and I'll talk about this more, we've started to revamp our crew program and make it more individualized to fit the crew instead of just Scouts BSA. And then the athletic events that we started again with Camp Wacklow we'll see returning this year. So that could be archery matches, soccer games, swimming, and some merit badge changes. I'll highlight a few briefly, but you'll see the extensive list on our leader's guide. We'll have some new merit badges coming. For example, we'll have bird studies and open program, and we'll have movie making merit badge as well. So again, these are just some of our area directors, all familiar faces, some that are joining us after some time of hiatus, such as Logan Penny and Annie Souza is joining us full-time. We got her a couple weeks last year, but we're happy to have her for the full summer this year. Not pictured on the slide are also Abby, who is going to return as our Scout Captain Director, and Graham, who is going to be our Dining Services Director again this year. So again, just a really impressive number of years on staff for all of these area directors. So with the program that we offer, we want to make sure that we're able to offer quality program to the full range of campers. So that's going to be your first year campers that are joining your troop and camp for the first time. So within the Leader's Guide, we have supplements that focus on first year campers. They're going to give recommendations of what merit badges are good for these campers to take so that they're able to focus on fun and manageable programs their first year at camp. Well, then as they progress to be older, start to maybe focus on Eagle and looking at those Eagle required badges. We then look at what we call the Wanocksett Pioneers, which are going to be your older scouts, 16, 17-year-olds who maybe have already accomplished a lot of their merit badge, maybe already have their Eagle Award, where we have special options for them, such as the adventure team, the coat program in the morning, and through the aquatics, they can also get BSA Guard just as an alternative to our traditional merit badges that we offer in the morning. And as I said, our venturing, since we have our venturing program that's growing, we have alternative options to the merit badge periods for venturers as well. So ways that you can give back as an adult leader. So some of our biggest areas of needs are listed on this slide. So each and every week we ask of the adult leaders who have expertise in certain areas that they come and speak to some of our merit badge classes. And that full list of requirements is available on the last page of the Leader's Guide. If this is something that you have an interest and availability to do, there's a Google form as well on that. We also offer a full range of field trips. On some days, we have multiple field trips going out during open program, and we always need drivers to be able to accommodate all of the scouts that we're able to take out of camp and get that full experience as well. Along with driving, we also have some walking field trips, some field trips that are not field trips, but on camp property as well, such as the Mile Slow and the Triathlon, and then of course the Sunset Summit. So we're looking for supervision on these as well. And then the adult leader service projects, which you can also get an adult award, the Rangers Jack Scoutmaster Award for 10 hours of service for this. So once you get to camp, we can talk more about what this will look like as well. Okay, and as you all know, this is going to be our 100th anniversary this summer. So we do have some programming that's going to be specific for this summer to celebrate that 100th anniversary. Something that I want to note before talking more about this is that we want to make sure that every scout that attends Camp Wanocksett, whether it's week 1, week 7, or multiple weeks, they're able to get the same experience. And that's going to carry over to this 100th anniversary activity. So whatever we do week 1, we're going to do week 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it might not look like a huge party that we're going to throw similar to those that might come week 7. We'll see a little bit different programs. We're going to have consistent programs. So what this is going to look like is there will be some additional awards that campers can earn, such as that, as we all know, the Troop Award, the Patrol Award. There's going to be a new one that's specific for the 100th anniversary as well. And most of our activities are going to take place during open program. They're going to be supplements. You'll see some throwback merit badges, some throwback activities that scouts may have participated in 100 years ago, as well as some whole camp celebrations as well. So in addition to program, we also have some on-site historical memorabilia and a patch set. And I'm actually going to kick it over to Andy Collins to talk more about the 100th anniversary committee that we've been working with.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. I've been lucky to be sitting in with the Alumni Association and getting the events planned for the 100th anniversary. A couple of weeks ago, we had a massive kickoff event in Air where we had over 150 people join us for a night of fellowship and history gathering. There are actually 3 more events coming up this year. One is going to be in April. It's going to be a spring service day. It's a great opportunity for you, your scouts, really anybody to come to camp, provide a little bit of cheerful service, and kind of, you know, open up camp from a hard winter and just kind of check out camp. We also have our summer family day. The theme of this is relive your best day at camp. So any alumni from any generation can come up to camp. They can participate in the 5-mile road race. They can jump in the lake. They can climb the climbing tower. They can go to the archery range. They can cook something in Scoutcraft. They can enjoy an awesome barbecue meal like we normally do on Wednesday night. And then there'll be a campfire to cap the day off. And then the big grand celebration will be in November, where we're going to have a big celebration gala somewhere in the central Massachusetts area to just, you know, recap the entire year and celebrate 100 years of scouting on Thorndyke Pond. All the info on this can be seen at campwanocksett.org/CW100. And I also want to do a special shout out to Jim Ganley and Dan Burgoyne for all the history that they've been uncovering, and Brandon Morris, and the stuff that they've been sharing on our social media accounts. Twice a week for the rest of the year, they're chronicling 100 years of history for Camp Wanocksett. And there's been some really cool things that they've been sharing with us. So that's what we have for the 100th anniversary, and can't wait to see everybody at camp to celebrate in one way, shape, or form, whether it's at one of these events or during their week of camp. And I'll pass it back to Rachel.
Thanks, Andy, for all that great information. So we're going to circle back to the crew programs for a second. So prior to last summer, when we had crews visit camp, we would sit down with them once they arrived on Sunday evening and try and schedule their week and what that would look like. Starting last summer and what we're continuing to do this summer and just continuing to develop is a more proactive approach. So what we've done is we've come up with a list of requirements for awards and advancements that we are able to offer at camp. And we're providing those to the crews beforehand so they can really schedule their week and know what they are doing by the time they arrive on camp on Sunday, just like a typical scout that would sign up for merit badge classes. So when we look at what we wanted to offer, we're looking at more classroom-based activities. And what I mean by that is where you have an instructor that's highly knowledgeable on the content that's able to provide hands-on experience to the participants in the program. So we're not looking at long-term personal growth. So anything that asks you to monitor yourself for, let's say, 6 months or even a month, we aren't doing. We're also not trying to take the place as an advisor for crew programs. And there has to be a clear benefit to doing it at camp compared to doing it outside of camp. So avoiding anything with verbs such as explain or plan, where it would ask venturers to explain what they've learned to a group of scouts, as everyone in their group will also be doing the same learning. So we're just really being intentional about the programs that we want to offer to these crews for their awards and advancement. So that being said, we do have a list that we will be sharing before the crews arrive at camp, but that list is not the only thing that we can offer. If there, of something that you would like to do, just simply reach out, and we want to make sure that we can offer whatever you need as long as it is appropriate for it to be done at camp. All right, the last section that I will be talking about before we'll be taking a brief break for questions is the role of youth leaders in camp. And historically, when we've thought about youth leadership at camp, up until last year, this is something that we've really put on the troops to manage however they wanted to manage. We've had 1 or 2 brief SPL meetings just to talk about flag schedules and friendship fires, but beyond that, we put it all on the troops. So we're trying to take a little bit more ownership and trying to get a little bit of more communication open between the camp administration directly to the SBLs, directly to the crew presidents. So we made this change last year, where similar to adult leaders having a Scoutmaster meeting at 9:30 every day, the SBLs had a daily meeting as well, where they got a chance to advocate for younger scouts in their troop. They got a chance to have tasks given them to each day where they could accomplish, still under the supervision of their adult leadership, who also got to know what the tasks were. And it just really gave them the leadership from the camp perspective that they would not get during the off season with just their troop. All right, so Nick, do we have any program questions?
Yeah, we've got a few program questions that we can go over. So the first one that I've got a couple people asking if the new tents that we've ordered, are they going to be nylon tents or canvas tents? If we know that.
Nylon.
There we go. So nylon tents for the new tents this year. Want some people asking about some more information on the crew programs. They're not as familiar with our venturing side of programs. So Rachel, maybe you could take a second and explain what we do with a crew program at Camp Wanocksett.
Yeah, so as I said, a few weeks before you would attend with your crew, I will send you out, and we can actually, I have a sample schedule. It's not set in stone, the one that we used last year, and we can send that out with the materials that we'll be including in the email from this meeting as well, where you can look it up. And what we have done is you can pick and choose. It's just a list of requirements that we're able to appropriately address at camp. Pick and choose the ones that you are most interested in earning. And then myself and area directors will sit down and we will plan out your week for you, where you will go to the different areas actually during merit badge periods and have instruction with our counselors in whatever is needed to meet those requirements.
Awesome.
And that will take place. I'm sorry, that will take place during the morning period. So AB, and sometimes it takes place during patrol time if we need the extra hour, but we're encouraging crews to also participate in patrol time as well as C period merit badges. Right. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I've got a question here, wondering from someone if week 7 is going to have events with Camp Walklow.
So, traditionally, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, their summer is always shifted. So they start a week earlier and also end a week earlier. So because of that, Walklow is not in session during week 7. So we're not able to have any events with them.
I believe that is also the case this year.
Mhm.
Our week 7 begins August 11th. Their summer ends on August 10th.
Thank you.
Yep. So in past years, Rachel needed to leave before the end of the summer. If that's the case, who is going to be the program director for weeks 6 and 7?
Great question. Some of you know my schedule more than I do. For those who aren't familiar, if you come earlier in the summer, I am an intervention specialist, special ed teacher out in Ohio. Our summer is shifted a little bit where I get out actually in May, but that means I have to go back to school in August. So I will be taking off a little bit early as usual. Nick will take up a lot of those leadership positions that I would take up. It is usually either the end of week 5 or end of week 6 that I have to leave. And Will Neville, who has been with us in the past, though he won't be there, he's going to be a great consult for us in the summer too, where Nick can reach out to either myself or Will. But I have honestly some days probably more faith in Nick than myself. So he is going to do an amazing job when I leave to go back to Ohio.
Awesome. And then we have a couple of units asking about COPE. Some weeks COPE was missed due to lack of interest. So is there going to be more advanced information and signups to avoid that this year so we can have COPE run hopefully every week?
Yes. So something that we have started to work with Jim Ganley on, who is really the biggest advocate of COPE in our district. In our council, he does a lot of training in COPE as well to get more troop interest off season, but also more training to occur, whether it's adult leaders wanting to get trained and certified in COPE, or if it's older scouts as well, to hopefully boost that interest. That being said, too, the slide that we have up right now, counselors in trainings, we also backfill some of those participants in COPE with our CIT. So that's something that Adam and I will work closely on to make sure that if we do have camper interest in COPE, but we don't have enough to really make a solid program, that we're able to have CITs participate in that program as well to make a good sized COPE group.
And going along with that, we've got somebody asking for some more information on programs for older scouts.
Yes, so that's going to be within the leader's guide. So there is a whole page of recommended programs for older scouts. As I said, our recommendation, if you have a scout that has earned Eagle already and is happy with the number of merit badges they've earned, that they can either take COPE in the morning, or there is BSA Guard that also fills all of those morning slots as well. But as I said, on that leader's guide is a more in-depth area about those older scouts.
All right. Is there a polar bear swim?
Yes.
Yes. 7 a.m. each morning. Yeah.
All right. And I think that's all of the questions that I have for now from the program side. I've got a couple more from operations.
All right, let's clear the deck of operations questions unless they're health form related.
Okay. So then I've got one left. It's about, when are the junior staff emails going to be released?
Well, this is really, so junior staff emails, in the next 36 hours, we'll send out an email to those folks who've been hired for positions. So we have them slated. There's been a little bit of movement in the last couple of days, but we're just about ready to hit send. Awesome. So if you didn't understand that question, that's not a question really about summer camp as much as someone knows someone who's working at camp this summer, or hopefully working at camp. We interviewed on the 29th or 28th of December, and we've placed the staff in the last couple of weeks, and we have 100% of the positions for the junior staff filled, and we have a waiting list for positions if someone doesn't take it. But we'll get that out very soon. Yeah. What else, Nick?
Yeah, I just had one more question come in. So from somebody who's new to the program, would like to know what the terms crew and COPE refer to.
Great question. So a crew is, there's a section of Scouts, of Boy Scouts of America called venturing. And what venturing is, it's geared towards older youth. So when we say youth and venturing, we talk about 14 to actually they age out at 21 instead of 18. And crews I like to think of as kind of a create your own adventure, as you have crews that will specialize and decide they want to do different things. And where the leadership of a Boy Scout troop is heavily supported, and a lot of the activities are arranged by the Scoutmasters and adult leaders. With a crew, those 14 to 20-year-olds, they're the ones that take up the leadership, design the outings, and the adults really just work as advisors behind them. So just as with a Scouts BSA troop, the participants are called Scouts. With a venturing troop, the troop is called a crew, and the Scouts are called venturers. And then the other question was COPE, correct? So COPE stands for Challenging Outdoor Personal Experience. And what it is when run within a summer camp, it's a 5-day experience where you will come together with either scouts that you know, scouts that you don't know, or a mix of both. And within that week, it's a progressive program. So you'll start to develop leadership, communication skills, group working, problem working skills, and you'll start to work on those with what we call initiative games. So games on the field, games on the ground, and it will build up and it's progressive. So later on the week, you'll go to our low course. And then at the end of the week, they usually end with the high course as well. So you're working on those skills that you'll build to complete bigger and bigger obstacles as the week goes on.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And then there are a couple more questions here, but they are about medical forms. So I think we're going to hang on to those for right now.
Nick, anything about the 100th anniversary or any other extraneous questions that don't fit into medical forms?
No, Danny, that's all I've got.
All right, let's do it. So we have our CIT director on, the Dr. Adam Morse. He is a public school teacher in Vermont, and we are lucky to have him back. He's our musician and our professor. He's known to paint cabins. He does everything. So here he is, Adam Morse.
Thanks, Danny. So yes, my name is Adam Morse. I'm the CIT director. I've been the CIT director since 2016. I've worked at camp since I was a CIT. That was back in 2006. And I've been coming to camp I started as a camper in 2002. So this will be my 23rd summer at camp. It'll be my 19th on staff. I'm really looking forward to this summer, it being the 100th anniversary, because this is a great opportunity for CITs to participate this summer because it's just a unique year. Number one, the requirements, if you're unfamiliar with the CIT program, that's counselor in training, you got to be 14 or 15. That's the age demographic for which the program is designed. And you have to be first class to begin your participation in the program. So you're going to be at least 14 by the beginning of the summer, by the time you start the program, and at least first class. So if you're really interested, or adult leaders, if you have scouts in your troop that could potentially be interested, but they're not yet first class, it's an incentive. If they want to do the CIT program, they have a few months to get that done. The application is due April 15th. So we do this process a little bit after the rest of the paid staff is hired. And so about a week after the application deadline passes, then I will send an email out to everybody that applied, and I will let them know about interviews. Everyone goes through an interview process, so we get to know them a little bit. And then we let people know that they're in the program. And then basically you come for 4 weeks total to Camp Wanocksett as a CIT. You come for staff week with all the rest of the staff, where you get trained. You do the work projects with us. You do the training in the evening. You get prepped and primed for the summer. And then you choose 3 weeks out of the rest of the 7 weeks when you want to participate as a CIT. They do not have to be in order. In fact, I recommend that they not be in order as much as possible. But we understand people's schedules are different, and that's why it's flexible. So if you want to come 1, 3, and 5, if you want to come 2, 4, and 7, if you want to come 2, 5, and 7, if you want to come 3, 4, and 6, you can do that. I sort of monitor it because I like it to be about 14 CITs per week, just because of the space in the CIT village where people live and the number of areas we have in distributing people. That's the ideal number. We have moved people around in the past, but that's just been voluntary. It sort of just works itself out. But the point is, if you're interested, or have scouts that are interested, the sooner they can apply, the better. There's so much that people get out of it. You build really important leadership skills that you take back to your units. We do a training every afternoon with me, and during the rest of the day, you're working in a program area It could be nature, it could be the waterfront, it could be the climbing tower, it could be shotgun. You get rotated everywhere at least once, usually twice, or maybe 3 times. And you learn important customer service skills to be potentially a future staff member. And that's, really what the program is designed around you doing. So if you want to go to camp with your troop, the thing is you can still do that. You can go the week your troop goes to camp, your unit goes to camp, and then you can go the other weeks as a CIT. And so that flexibility exists too. And in fact, I encourage that if people have the time or can work that in. It's great to go one more time with your unit as a camper and then spend several other weeks being a CIT, being on both sides of staff and camper. I think it's a really, really important experience to have when scouts are 14, 15. And, if you've done all the merit badges and you've done a lot of the other camp programs, this is maybe the next progression, the next thing that you do. And if you're still working on your advancement, which many CITs are, you can still earn merit badges. So periods 1 and 2 in the morning at 9 and 10 in the morning every week, you can take merit badges. So a lot of my CITs end up taking my Sit in the Nation and Sit in the World because those are Eagle required. You can take sailing, you can take shotgun shooting, and you can do COPE, like Rachel was talking about. A lot of CITs like doing COPE. They like doing it several times, and we encourage them to do that if they want to. So you have all these opportunities. It's 4 weeks of camp, and the cost of the fee for the program this year is $475. That's for all 4 weeks combined. Doesn't include being a camper. That's the separate camper fee, but that's staff week and 3 other weeks. So if you're interested in the program or have questions, the link is camp.wanocksett.org. Go to the CIT page. It's there, Google form that you fill out for the application. And if you have questions, you can email me, cit@camp.wanocksett.org. Pretty easy to remember. Anything else, Danny?
No, I think you nailed it. My question is, Chat Master, are there CIT questions right now? Will we have the professor up?
I haven't gotten any questions about the CIT program yet. So I think that's...
I'll just add my camp director's minute on this. Adam, your CITs live behind the director's cabin. My wife and I keep an eye on them as the leadership at night. You run an incredible program. The scouts get great skills, and you are feeding the junior staff each year with between 6 and 10 new staff members just to continue the Wanocksett experience. So job well done. What do we have last year? 29 CITs?
29.
29. And we're looking to do 30 this year at least. And so thank you. And please push this with your troops. This is an incredible experience. Many times I have heard adults, parents telling Adam that this program has changed their kids. They come home and they act different, and they are putting their laundry in the machine, and they're doing things that they wouldn't expect. Adam does a great job working with them. And I call him the professor because, of course, he does have his doctorate. That's what that's all about. All right, let's move on. All right, tonight we are so lucky to have Laura Fuller with us. She's the Webelos resident camp director, and that runs week, I don't want to get it wrong. Is it week 6? Yeah, it goes back and forth. But here she is looking sharp in uniform. All right, take it away, director.
All right, so like Danny said, my name is Laura Fuller. This is my 8th year working at a BSA summer camp. So the Webelos program at Wanocksett is a hybrid Cub Scout and Scouts BSA program. We try to get them into as many program areas as are allowed by the BSA. Obviously, shooting sports, so rifle, archery, and shotgun. They do not see those areas, but we do set up their own shooting sports areas in our lower sports field. So we try to get them around to see all the program areas, to see what's coming up either next year or the year after. These are kids going into 4th and 5th grade. We've been running this program at Wanocksett since 2013, so we've had a lot of experience with it. We've kind of worked out the bugs. So we take either, if it's an individual scout from a pack, or if there's a group of scouts from the same pack, we put them all in the same group in the same campsite at Wanocksett. We dub them Pack 1 Wanocksett, and then we break them into dens just like they are in their packs, and they move through program areas the same times as the Scouts BSA are in their merit badges. So if you have a scout that is taking an ecology merit badge, there you might see Cub Scouts there week 6 who are learning some nature things. We have adult volunteers who kind of escort them from area to area, supervise them in their campsite. They are all registered leaders with the BSA. They are quarried, sorried, and YPT'd, so the scouts are all well supervised while they're here. They do some requirements. So like the shooting sports awards is an easy one. They do archery, BBs, and slingshots. They might cover some requirements for the aquanaut or for like the cast iron chef, that kind of thing, but that's not our focus. Our focus is getting them comfortable in camp and really getting them excited to stay for a full week. Sometimes that first week at camp is a big ask. It's a new experience, a lot of new sounds, a lot of new smells, a lot of new experiences, and it's a lot. That first week, so this is a little more manageable. They can do one session that's 3 nights. So there's 2 sessions, the first part of the week and the second part of the week, or they can stay for the entire week. We've had scouts do both. Last year, we had 14 scouts that stayed for the entire week. They had a great time. They do sleep in the tents. They do go to all the program areas, like I said. They go to morning and evening flag ceremonies. They eat dinner in the dining hall. Evening program is a mix. Sometimes we have Cub Scout specific programs, and sometimes we have them doing like camp wide. One comes to mind is the OA ice cream social on Thursday night. We always let them go to that. Everybody likes ice cream. And then we usually try to get them lights out at 9:30. The switch over on Wednesday, we started doing it a little earlier. It makes it a little more seamless, gets them, the new kids, integrated into camp a little better, and they have a great time. They go home exhausted and dirty.
Laura, that was great. One thing I always like to add, just because everyone's thinking about their week, this is week 6, and we have Webelos staff in addition to the Scouts BSA staff. And so you won't see Webelos at the rifle range competing for a rifle range space. I think we have a separate BB range, a separate archery range. And so we're able to run the 2 programs without bumping into each other in those areas where space is tight and program staff is tight. So you'll see them and you'll have fun with them, but it does not affect the Scouts BSA program. Do we have questions for Director Fuller, Chat Master?
No questions for Laura right now, but I do have some that came in right after Adam had finished talking, if you want to go talk about CIT
We'll go there in a second, but just while we have Laura on, one of the things that we need to do a better job of, and that's why we're here tonight, is we want to make sure we get this information out to the PACs. And so Laura is doing an amazing job getting information out, but I know some of the people on the call tonight are dual registered between PACs and troops. Anything you can do to help us, we'd love to see the campsite full of Webelos, because these Webelos will be in camp in 2 years as scouts, many of them. And so we want them to have an experience, but we want them to be introduced to the program. So thank you, and let's get them to camp. Laura, anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, that's awesome. This was a great idea of yours to be on this call, and let's do it. All right, let's go to the next slide. So these are the sessions. Andy mentioned a letter coming up that we're going to confirm your week. In the next 10 days or so, you'll get an email from us confirming what we have you down in the event that you have something different. We want to fix that now, but it's going to be a full summer. And you see the pre-camp meeting. These are Zooms, and these are important meetings. In addition to the pre-camp meeting, 2 weeks prior to your arrival, we will have a meeting, an optional meeting in the early part of May that will be heavy on program and a little bit more on reminding you of your medical form requirements. We started that last year. We brought it back. So we have tonight as a pre-camp meeting. We'll have one in early May to touch base with you, talk about program merit badges, the process of signing up, and push those medical forms on you again. And then we'll see you 2 weeks prior to your arrival at camp when we really get down into the details of your experience for your day at camp. But let's keep rolling. Medical forms. I'm going to turn it over to Andy, who will probably throw some time out to Becky to say hello. But we had 2 nurses on the call. One had to jump off. She has another commitment. But this summer, we have Nurse Becky Lantry, Nurse Heather Stewart, Nurse John Gogan later in the year, in the summer, 6 and 7, when Becky heads off to Maine to her cabin up on the ocean. And then you'll see some other nurses on check-in day. We try to have 2 nurses at least every check-in day as that process. It's great to have 2 RNs and a couple other adults down there. But Collins, do you want to start this process?
Sure. Yeah. I'll kick off. And before we get into the next couple of things, Becky, if you have anything to add in, let me know. So for everybody, the BSA form that we have had the last couple of years continues to be the form that we're going to have this year. We have to use that form. I know there's been a couple of questions in the chat that have come through, and Nick and I have been going back and forth about medical forms being due 4 weeks before camp, 28 days. That's a big change. We actually implemented that last year, and it was really successful. We had about 60 units turn in their medical forms at the 28-day mark. Earlier in the summer, I know it's a little bit tighter because you have kids who are still doing physicals and stuff like that. But the idea here is to get us the things that you have, and don't hold back on things that you are still waiting for parents from. If you have 85% of the forms, get those to camp, submit those on time. If you have an expired tetanus shot listed on a medical form, that's okay. Submit that to camp. Get the form, even if it's mostly complete, to camp, and then we can work with the nurses. The nurses will obviously flag stuff like that, and then you can submit an update when the actual tetanus shot gets updated or the physical gets updated or whatever the case may be. So I know that was some feedback from the Health Lodge last year, to make sure that submit whatever you have, even if it is maybe still going to be updated and you know it's going to be updated. That way they have something to work with. A lot of times folks think that when they submit the medical forms, it's just going to get looked through real quick and it's going to go in the file for if there is an emergency. But really behind the scenes, a lot of things happen where we're checking for food allergies, we're checking for medical conditions and communicating that stuff. So the earlier we can get those, the better. Early in the summer, even if camp is not open, still send them to camp, right? I work 2 towns south of camp. Ranger Mayo is there. Becky and Heather were taking turns to go up and check the mail. So still send them to camp and get them there. As always, the medical forms are valid for 12 months, 12 calendar months. And they're good, just like your car inspection sticker, until the end of the 12th month. So if you have a physical, this usually happens in the middle of the summer where someone like myself who has a summer birthday will say, well, I got my physical July 8th last year. My insurance won't let me get a new physical until July 9th of this year. That's okay. The physical is still good until July 31st of this year. As always, we have a list of common mistakes in the Leader's Guide. And the medical form should be getting updated tomorrow. We had a slight software glitch tonight before the call, but we'll have that medical form up there. And we have produced for a number of years now a double-page sheet as a cover sheet to our medical form. It highlights all the things that are missing, that are common things that are missed. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes that cover sheet does not get passed on to parents. So please make sure when you're making copies or you're talking about the medical form to your parents, that you mention that there's a thing that they should use to double check, is everything completed on the medical form? A set of eyes in the troop or the crew should also look at the medical form and use that kind of cheat sheet to make sure the things that are common that are missed aren't missed. There is an immunization exemption process, and we only have that happen a couple times during the summer. And in the Leader's Guide, it directs you to contact us, info@camp-wanocksett.org. We can get you the proper forms and explain to you the process for that. If you have a scout who has an inhaler or an EpiPen, there is an additional part of the medical form. It's part D and H. There's a one-page thing if they have a auto-injector for an EpiPen or an inhaler. If a scout doesn't have those things, they don't need to fill it out. And the other thing that came up last year is, we're really fortunate to have 2 great camps within our council, and we share the same medical form file. There's a part D MA for the Massachusetts camps. Our scouts do not need to fill that out. Even if they're coming from Massachusetts, if they're coming to New Hampshire, that part of the form does not need to be filled out by anybody. So just the part D and H if it applies. As always, the most common things that are always overlooked, the over-the-counter signature from the parents. If you want your kids to be able to get Tylenol or ibuprofen or something throughout the week, a parent needs to sign off on that. Also, New Hampshire requires that scouts have a complete immunization record, not just the most recent date. So please just have the pediatrician print out that report. And then also tetanus being out of date was a common thing from last year. Becky, what other items would you like us to cover tonight?
The most important thing is that look at that. I did do an update on the medical instruction form, and that should highlight some of the things that we're really looking for. But the big thing is that if your doctor that you go to is going to generate a form that is good for the camp, good for schools, good for sports, that says little Johnny, little Janie had a physical on this date, they're in good health, and here's their immunization list. Just attach that to our form. And on the section where it says, doctor, say, see attached, they have an electronic signature on it, which is just their name and address, but it comes from their office. You're done. You don't have to write out all those little dates in our immunization area. You don't have to write out anything more on the thing. The most important thing is to make sure if your scout has medicines, that those medicines are listed on that physical form that the hospital, that the doctor's office generates, or that it's listed on our form. We need to know those, and the doctor will have to sign them if he didn't sign them in his pre-filled out form. A lot of times your pediatrician is not the person that ordered a certain medication, and so then it may not be listed in the physical, but that's the big thing to check for. But if it's a prescription medicine, it can be on their physical form that they generate, or it can be in our form. But we do have to have doctors sign prescriptions. And then the most important also thing is just that it's highlighted there is that if it's a non-prescription medicine, over the counter, please just parents sign for it. And then to make sure that those, as I've highlighted in the sheet, come in appropriate containers, that if you bought them some melatonin or you bought them some gummies to have vitamins to take, bring it to us in the gummy vitamin container, bring it to us in the allergy medicine box. Don't give it to us in a plastic baggie, and don't give it to us in some homemade container. We have to know what it is we're giving. We can't just, take the poor scout's word for it when they're standing in front of us. That's the most important thing. But there is a new instruction sheet that you can copy, send to the parents with their medical forms, and that should help them out. And then no more waiting around for the form to come from the doctor if they've already generated that one. Just attach it on. I've heard horror stories last year about people, bringing the medical form to the doctors in January, and they're begging for it, the day they're due back and doing camp, because the doctor won't sign it. And we've known this for years. They don't want to sign our forms. They just want to generate their own at the end of their visit. And that is perfectly fine with us.
Well said, Becky. And copies. We only want copies. Copies. Don't give us your original. Every year someone brings us a stack of originals.
All right,
no,
Nick,
don't want them.
do we have any questions about medical forms that we can cover while we're here?
Yeah, we've got a few questions that have come in about medical forms. So we've got one. Should medical forms be sent directly to camp? Because last year they were sent to council until a cutoff date. So where are we sending med forms this year?
So in a few years ago, we had them sent to the council office. We are having them all sent to the camp. Do not send them to the office. We don't want to mix up the two camps' medical forms, and next thing you know, the nurses from each camp have other med forms for the wrong kids. So directly to Dublin.
And Andrew, that was last year too. Last year
that was last year as well. Yeah, we changed that last year.
Last year's video, it was camp for medical forms. We love council, but we don't want them inundated with stacks of medical forms.
Awesome. So send the forms right to camp. So I know you covered it briefly, but I think we want to go over this again because there's some confusion about it. For scouts that have birthdays that are in the summer, 28 days or 4 weeks is not a lot of time for medical forms to go in. So how can we make sure that scouts that have summer birthdays are accommodated here?
So 99% of the time, like Nurse Becky said, the medical form is probably going to be generated from the pediatrician's office, right? You're going to get that printout. So have the parents submit a medical form, right? Parts A and B to the camp. And honestly, submit an out-of-date expired physical. If you have something from the doctor, include it. And help out Becky, help out Heather, flag that physical has expired and that you know there's going to be a physical coming. And then as soon as you get it, send it to camp.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
It's
we're
better
talking
for
put
them
a
to have
yellow,
the info.
Andrew, we're talking about like putting a yellow sticky note that says medical scheduled for July 14th. We'll update as soon as we get it.
Exactly.
And that way, if anyone comes through, anyone from the state, whatever, to look at anything, that's very reasonable. Everyone is reasonable. Just give us what you got and we'll make it work. But, don't give us nothing.
Yeah. The other thing too is just that, that last year we asked to have the medical forms 4 weeks before you're going to arrive in camp. And that gives Heather and myself an opportunity to screen all the forms. And then we sent you back via text messages any problems that you had. And that also gave you that 4 to 3 weeks to go ahead and fix problems, so you're not arriving in camp and there's some major glaring thing. We want your check-in to be smooth. We want it to be quick, and we want to have pre-done all the work that needs to be done. As far as having medicines all set with a medical sheet ready to go, having the kitchen staff know that there's an allergy that they need to be aware of, having the waterfront staff aware of any sort of health problems that'll be an issue there. So that's all that stuff that we generate. And so that 4-week lead time is really necessary. And as he said, if you don't have it all complete, just give us what you've got and then we'll work with that. You may get a reminder note of something you already know, but that we've seen it and you are good to go.
4 weeks
All
prior
right,
to
Nick.
when you arrive, copies, and send us what you have to camp, not to council, to camp. Nick, what else is in the chat? Because we're at about 49 minutes of talking now.
Some units that's pre-submitted their medical forms were held up behind troops that didn't. Can troops that pre-submitted their forms get fast-tracked through the medical check-in?
Not necessarily. You have troops who are pre-submitting their medical forms who arrive in camp and they're still missing campers or they're still missing some other component. We definitely do the best we can that if your medical forms are in order, you should be in the front of the pack in most cases, but we can't promise that.
Right. Then can we have the rules for the physical date restated? So if there was a physical on July 1st, but the scouts at camp on July 15th, is their previous physical still good?
Think of it like your auto sticker. You get your sticker on the 5th of July. You are good till the next year, until the end of July. Andrew, is that the proper way of explaining it?
That is correct.
Yes.
Let's keep going.
Yep. If we've got a physical printout, do they also need to have a health history checklist?
They have to have the first part that the parents fill out. So yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They
They need to have parts A and B completed. If you have a physical from the doctor, that can replace part C. If they have medication,
Right.
you don't need to have the physician go through part B, right? But the parents still have to sign off the OTC area for that stuff. Same with the immunizations.
Right.
If the immunizations are listed on the doctor's thing, don't transcribe all that information onto B2. Just staple it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, let's keep going.
And then,
Sorry, let Becky go quick and then back to the questions.
you just said that checklist. That checklist will be everything that's included in the physical form that comes from the doctor. So that's fine.
That takes care of a couple things. The last one here looks like we've got one for the exact address to mail forms for camp.
642 Upper Jeffrey Road, Dublin, New Hampshire, 03444. It's listed in one of the first couple pages of the Leader's Guide, right below Danny's welcome letter.
Right. And that's everything I have on med forms.
All right. Nice job, Becky. That was great. And I liked Becky did quite a bit of work this past week on the hit list for basically what to do right and what to do not to do wrong on medical forms. All right, Andrew, this is yours.
All right, so early bird this year is $530 per scout. May 1st is the early bird deadline. We'll talk about payment in a little bit. Registration for provisional will be going live as well in the coming days. So if you have scouts who can't go your week, encourage them to go provisional. It's a great program. We had almost 120 kids last year. go through our provisional troop. We have 2 over 21 adults, a male and a female, that run that program. It's really fun. It's really awesome. If you have a scout, and there's a typo on the screen, I just realized, if you have a scout who joined the troop after the early bird date, but before they come to camp, a crossover, someone that a friend brought and recruited a friend, they pay the early bird rate because they wouldn't have been able to go to camp at that early bird rate, so the 5:30. As far as adults go, our same ratios as previous years. All units get 2 free adults, up to 20 scouts, and then over 20 scouts, every 10 or part thereof above that, they get an additional adult leader for free. If you need to bring additional adults over and above the quota that you get for free, it's $150 per adult for a full week. If you have adults who are going to be switching throughout the week, most common it happens where an adult comes in Sunday, leaves Wednesday, and tags out someone who's coming in Wednesday, leaves Saturday. We're just going to count that as one adult financially, and we'll go through that during the financial process. And then if you have any additional adults that are here for the part of the week, it's $10 per meal to really cover the insurance and cover the food. Danny?
All right, Cafe Services is back for their 28th summer with us, and real consistent operation with plenty of food. So we're excited about that, and they'll work with your special diets and whatever you need, but make sure you include that information in your medical form if there's something special. Let's keep going. All right, camperships. This is one that the council office does incredible work with, but we need to get this paperwork in by April 1st. So if you have a scout in need, they need to fill out the paperwork and get it in by April 1st. Please work with us. I'm sure there's an exception if some scout finds out afterwards that they're going to camp, but for the most part, we know who's going to camp in March. So let's get these these campership forms in by April 1st. This is you, Andrew.
Yeah, so new this year, after requests from a lot of people, is an online store. We've partnered with a print-on-demand service to create a whole bunch of products. This year, we're going to have a lot of Camp Wanocksett 100th anniversary stuff in there. You can see on your screen, we have the first 4 of, I believe, 8 or 9 commemorative prints that have been done to celebrate the 100th anniversary. Kind of a throwback to the National Park Service, the WPA, back in the early 1900s. You also see a phone case on your screen and a notebook. They're awesome products. Some of the staff have already ordered them. They got a little bit of a sneak peek. These are mostly print on demand, so it takes about 10 days for you to get the products. We'll also have our pre-order system that we had last year up and running, where a scout can order some products where they pick them up at camp when they arrive. And we'll have a whole trading post. This is all in addition to everything that we're going to have at camp. You're talking t-shirts and sweatshirts and sweatpants and gym shorts and, camping equipment and snacks and whatnot. So we'll have a whole bunch of things online. You can go to shop.campwanocksett.org to buy stuff. And I highly recommend the posters. I've seen them in print. They came out really, really awesome. I want to give a special shout out to Nick Valentin, who spent a lot of time digitizing some photos, and Jim Ganley for doing the iconography and the text on those.
For those folks who may not know, the center one, that was the Thayer Lodge. That was in the parking lot, and that was the original dining hall at camp. And so you'll see that in some old photos, but you need to know a little bit of history there. Thayer Lodge, dining hall. This is you,
So,
Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Our virtual pre-camp check-in also available this year. As usual, we've done that for the last 2 years. This is the 3rd year doing it. It's really successful. It really helps speed up your check-in on Sunday. It also helps with, a troop or a crew that has a lot of adults who are helping plan camp. You have a treasurer, your merit badge person, your medical form person, your scoutmaster. We will send out the sign up for that at the pre-camp meeting, and we'll email it out as well. You can pick a time on your calendar, on my calendar that works. It's about 15 minutes. We'll send everything to you. And then when you get to camp, you just come to the office, drop off stuff, give us the thumbs up that all the kids are there. And you're on your way out of the office instead of sitting there, managing paperwork. Last year, we added to the leader's guide, and we have it in there again this year, some key dates as well as a backdater, right? So we have, Danny mentioned the campership deadline of April 1st, April 15th. Adam really likes to have those CIT applications in by May 1st as our early bird payment due to the council office. June 15th is kind of a magical day where we ask you to stop sending any mail or dropping off anything to the council office. Gives them a chance to process any more paperwork, pack up some stuff, and one of us picks up a whole bunch of boxes and things and brings it up to the Dublin office to get that open for the year. So after June 15th, don't send stuff to Rutland, send it directly to Dublin. Medical forms excluded, right? If you fall in that 28-day window and it's before June 15th, still mail that stuff to camp. One of us will be up there and picking up those medical forms. We're talking payments or things that should stop getting sent to Dublin at that point, or to Rutland. And then June 22nd, we are all there full time, ready to rock and roll and have a great summer. Some other key things, kind of backdating, 30 days before you get to camp, you really should be making sure that everybody who's going from your unit is registered to your unit. There are no exceptions. You must have your adults and your kids listed on your unit roster. If they're crossing over, you need to work with your council's registrar to get those kids moved over. If you have an adult who is joining and coming up for a couple days, you got to get them on that roster. The background check needs to run, the Corey and the Story need to run, their insurance needs to get paid for. This is about safety of scouts. There's no no ifs, ands, or buts. So get those going 30 days out, verify your roster. Also, if you have lived in New Hampshire in the last 7 years, or you currently do live in New Hampshire, you should start to submit those DCYF third-party checks to the state of New Hampshire. They do take 3, 4, sometimes 5 weeks to get processed by hand up in Concord, New Hampshire. 28 days ahead of time, get those med forms, and we've talked about that. Label them with your unit, label them with your week number. 10 days out, pick a virtual pre-camp check-in after the pre-camp meeting. Again, all of that stuff's done on Zoom. And then sometime between the virtual pre-camp meeting and your arrival at camp, do that virtual check-in. On arrival day, and again, all this stuff is in your leader's guide. So please take the time to look at the first couple of pages of your leader's guide to see these checklists, but make sure that everyone's shown up, come to the office, bring a whole bunch of paperwork, and do the formal check-in. Sometimes we have units who will arrive to camp and they won't come to the office for some reason. They just get swept up in all the check-in process. And we do need to make sure that you have everybody there and you've gone through the paperwork.
Okay.
Danny?
Yeah. So really important that you need a camp coordinator who is the person who's the point of contact with us. And the unit pays the camp. We don't have individual checks rolling into camp from all the parents. The parents give you folks a check, you folks give us a check. Let's say that a scout decides not to come to camp. We will process a refund, but we won't do that until you get to camp, because you may pick up another scout, or you may end up buying photos, or you may end up doing something else. So at the end of the week, we'll figure out who owes money, whether we owe you or you owe us, and we will cut a check and refund that back to you. But what we don't want to do is get into a habit of chasing each other. We're sending you a check and you add another scout back on. Andy, basically, I have that right. Include the financial submission form. In the leader's guide is a page that really helps to the office staff put together what you're paying for. So it tells you how many scouts, how many adults, what week you're coming, and you include the payment with that so that they don't have to take your check with a random amount of money and try to go backwards and create what you're giving them a check for. So please use the financial submission form in the leader's guide. Have one person who's a coordinator for camp. The leader's guide is super important. Often you folks are reading the leader's guide, but the folks who come to camp are not always the same as you folks. So please make sure the leader's guide gets into the hands of all the adults who are involved in camp. There's so much information in there. Let's keep going.
As I mentioned earlier, your kind of trade-off day is June 15th. Send stuff to the Council Service Center in Rutland. You can put attention Kelly Stickney. You can put attention CW Summer on it. After June 15th, send it up to the camp office. You can put my name on it, and that will get into the business office. Things like checks or medical forms, you can put attention nurse. We, as always, have our unit roster and merit badge signups available online. That form will be updated at the end of the leader's guide. It's a great online template that you can use to pick the classes, make sure that the kids pick the badges in the right periods, and submit that to us. And then obviously check in and do your pre-camp meeting. Come to the pre-camp meeting, ask those questions. It's on Zoom, so it should be a quick hour, less than an hour for you to sign online 10 days before you come to camp and hear some check-in stuff about camp. And then finally, a couple other tips, right? Designated youth. Use your youth leadership. Get your SPL, your crew president involved in promoting summer camp. They're the ones who can sell camp to the kids. You can, as an adult leader, work with the parents and get them to send your kids to camp. But have the SPL promote camp, and it's a great thing. If you're not already following us on social media, follow us on social media. I gave the shout out earlier on the camp history stuff, but we've got a lot of things going up there. So make sure you're using that in your promotional materials as well as the camp website, camp.wanocksett.org.
Okay, before we go there, sorry, Andy, just looking at the Zoom screen here, there are 8 staff members who are summer camp staff, and I want to thank everyone for being here. But now I'd like to turn it over to our scout executive for a bit. He is with us. He is a full-time scout. He's our chief executive officer, a scout executive. He's at headquarters supporting us and making sure that George McGee gives us that money for that new power boat, and that we get our grants in, and that everything is happening, and that we're getting those nylon tents for those campsites. But incredible support from headquarters, Matt Gerarda, and our scout executive, Mark Barbonitz. I think, Mark, you're here somewhere.
I am.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be really brief, but I just want to say thank you to all the leaders. If this is your first year or your 20th year coming to camp, we appreciate you coming to Camp Wanocksett. And every year we ask the senior staff, Danny and Andy, put together, they build a staff that's absolutely incredible. And I guarantee you, I would put our staff up against any camp staff in the country. The enthusiasm, professionalism is remarkable, and they truly care about making sure every one of your scouts has a great experience. And it's just a phenomenal, it's wonderful to watch them work, watch the team work. It's just a great program, and the kids get a great summer program. 100th anniversary, it's a once in a lifetime. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to meet each of you out at camp this coming summer. And thanks again, and back to you, Dan.
Mark, thank you. And Matt, thank you for being here tonight, our camping director. So that's a lot. That was an hour and 4 minutes of information, but let's go to questions now. You have all the emails. They're all in the leader's guide. We're all teachers. We'll get back to you as quick as we can, but have us a little bit of patience with us. But Chat Master, what do you have in the chat? What can we do to get information out to folks?
All right. I've got a couple that I can take care of really quickly. So somebody asked about prerequisites for merit badges being marked and completed. Rachel, actually, you want to take that? Sorry, skip that.
Yeah. So if you look in the leader's guide, any merit badge that we will not be able to mark off as a complete during our 5-day program week at camp for merit badge periods will be marked as thus in the leader's guide. So you can reference that leader's guide to see if the merit badges will come up as complete or partials.
We did reference some changes to merit badge. So every year Scouts BSA makes changes to the merit badge programs. We've talked to our area directors and made sure that any badge that's impacted at camp, they already know about it. So that's what we were talking about when we said changes to merit badges, not badges that are being offered, specifically requirements to badges that we already do offer. I've got a couple questions here for Laura about the Webelos program. Can we explain what leader volunteers do at Webelos Resident?
Sure. So the leader volunteers for Cub Scouts do essentially what the adult leaders do for the troop, with a little bit more. So they are there in sight. They sleep in the tents. They make sure, the kids aren't roughhousing and they're being safe. They make sure they are up in the morning and getting ready for the day. And then after breakfast, we usually try to assign at least 2 leaders to each den, and they will get a schedule for the week, or the session, I should say, and then they escort their den, their group of 8 to 12 boys, or boys and girls, I should say, to the different program areas. So they don't all stay as a group. You can imagine 30 to 40 scouts all moving in one time would be a little unwieldy. So we break them down into smaller groups, and they all have their own assigned program areas that they all go to the same different activities together.
And then do the Cub Scouts themselves come alone, or is it more like, or do they have a den leader or a parent come with them?
So it's really up to what we have available and the individual family. So if you have a scout that is the only scout in their pack that wants to come to camp, they are more than welcome to come. They don't have to have a parent. We will have volunteers that will come and cover that adult leader piece. If you're registered in the BSA and you've already done your Corey Sorry YPT check and everything, and you want to come, we are more than happy to take you on. You would be one of those leaders that will be walking around camp and supervising and keeping everything safe.
Is there a separate registration site for the Webelow program, or do they go through the camp registration?
Great. So if you go to Camp Wanocksett website, there is a tab for the Weebelow's resident camp. You can follow that, and it has all the signups for the 2 sessions and the add-on. So if they wanted to stay for the whole week, you do session 1, and then there's an add-on piece. And then there's also a spot where you can mark if you want to volunteer.
Yep. And then the last one about Webelows, do you have any promotional material that the units can provide to the packs?
If you want to email me, it's laura.fuller@scout Heart of New England bsa.org. It's a mouthful. I do have stuff I can send out. There's I can't remember where things got posted as far as leaders guide and so on and so forth, but I do have that information that I can email directly if you're looking for that.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Here we've got a question. Yes, we will still have the Wanocksett House of Pizza. Photos will be at camp. The price for the photos varies depending upon the print service that we use. So we'll figure that out when it's closer. And then I've got a few questions here. When are head counts due by?
Be your 2-week meeting before.
Okay.
So 2 weeks prior to camp, we're going to ask you for what you're bringing of the scouts and how many adults. So, and we also will keep an eye on your medical forms, and we'll count those as a pre-number. But 2 weeks prior to camp, you're going to give us something firm. And if you want to bring a scout, you want to add another one after that, we want to take them all. But there's no real head count requirement. 2 weeks prior, we'd like to know.
Awesome. And then for troops that are in week 1, is there any way to have a pre-camp meeting prior to the 26th?
We can talk about that. It is hard. We're in finals week, and we're school teachers. We can talk about that.
Yep. We mentioned that medical form. We had a little technical snag earlier, so those will be updated in the leader's guide tomorrow, I believe. Andy, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, tomorrow I'll have that updated.
But it is the same form as last year. Is that what you said earlier?
It's the same form as last year. We just need to update the cover sheet. Really, the date is the only thing that's out of date. So if you have last year's form, it's the same form.
So for dietary restrictions, you can report those. Any major ones, you can reach out ahead of time to camp. But really, you can take those and you can report them to the dining services director when you get to camp for your dining services orientation.
Right. We have a double reporting. We're going to flag it on the medical form, but we also, an adult should let the dining hall director at the orientation know, so that we're double checking on these.
Encore weeks. An encore week is for a scout that's coming back for a second week of camp. So if there's already attended a week, we like to give those scouts who want to come back for a second week later on in the summer a small discount. If they're not coming with a unit, it would be the same as a Provo week for them. For troops that have not yet registered, how full are the weeks already?
The camp looks pretty full, but that's a great question. We have space weeks 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Awesome. And now I've got a few questions about camperships here. Do camperships need to go through the unit, or do they go through the council website?
I'm going to let Andy take that one because I'm not understanding it completely.
Can you repeat the question for me, Nick?
Yeah. So for people who need to apply for a campership, do the camperships need to go through the unit or from the council website? Because sometimes units have had trouble getting camperships from parents.
So, I'm gonna advocate here, right? If you know a family who is going to have a financial need for camp, and there's not been a financial aid submission on a campership yet from them, get that scout to camp, right? Fill the form out. Contact Danny, contact myself, contact Mark, and let's get that kid to camp. But submit it through the form, that goes through the clearinghouse of the folks at the council office and then the committee.
And then also looks like the campership form isn't on the council website right now. Is it?
We'll get that fixed tonight.
Great. And then do we have an idea of how much it covers?
In the past, it's covered a partial week of camp. That usually varying amounts. So I don't want to give a specific percentage or a specific dollar amount, but it's usually a partial for the camp.
Okay. Awesome. Now, where do we want people to send their early bird camp payments to? And are they due by May 1st or just need a deposit by May 1st?
No, they're due by May 1st. Please get them into the office by May 1st. You're going to mail them to the Heart of New England Council Service Center in Rutland. You can put attention Kelly Stickney. You can put attention, CW Summer. But mail those, drop them off, whatever you need to. But get them there by May 1st. Obviously, you want to plan with your parents and your families to collect that money a couple weeks ahead of time, right? And that check should be in the mail on its way. And really, it should be arriving by May 1st. If it arrives 1 or 2 days late because of the mail service, that's a different story. But you don't want to be collecting payments. You don't want to tell your parents, give us your check by May 1st, and then collect the payments. And then next thing you know, it's Memorial Day and you're just sending an early bird payment in.
Okay. Got a question here about blue cards. We do use physical blue cards. Please bring your own if you can. Camp does have a supply, but just bring your own if you can. We do have backups. When do we need our final merit badge information?
Not until the Sunday upon arrival. So we'll give you the information you can fill out beforehand electronically. We encourage, there's also a paper copy. If you send it in electronically, you'll still have the ability to edit it up until the Sunday that you come, but we won't be scheduling merit badge class periods until arrival. So really just any time that's good for you.
And Rachel said it earlier, but as an old program director, I want to drive it home. Every scout will get their first choice of merit badge for all 3 blocks. They may not get it the exact block they signed up for. If 29 kids sign up for rifle period 1 and there's 6 in period 2, we're going to reshuffle the deck with only those kids who can do that. But everyone gets their first choice. You can give it to us the day you arrive, or you can submit it online. It does not matter. We don't work on them until that Sunday.
Let me just go back through my list here. I think the last one I've got here, are the registration forms different from medical forms?
Registration forms? So
as a unit leader, you're going to submit to us a unit roster, which there'll be a template in the leader's guide. You'll be submitting your merit badge signups, and that's going to have the people's names on it that are coming to camp. Over and above that, when it comes to payment, really we're looking at the numbers. So the payment form that Danny mentioned earlier, that'll be in the back of the leader's guide, that's going to say how many scouts are you paying for. We don't need names on that form because there may be cases where you're swapping people in and out. When you actually send us the roster and you give us the MyDOT scouting roster and all that stuff, that's when you're going to give us the names of people.
Awesome. I think that does it for all of the questions that I've had in the backlog. If anything else needs to be answered, Andy, where should they send that question?
So you can email, as you can see on the screen, all of our emails are there. You can also email info@camp.wanocksett.org. That goes to everybody on this call tonight. And we'll filter through those and get back to you. Please remember that we're school teachers. Many of us are school teachers, and that we are busy in the classroom during the day. And so it might take a day or 2 to get back to you on something, but you can always email us info@camp.wanocksett.org.
Nick, anything else?
Oh, I do have one more here. This is more directed towards Laura. So since Webelos have separate dens at the pack level, will the girls and boys be in different campsites, separate packs and dens at camp?
So we keep them all on the same campsite. We do, when we do tent assignments, we keep the girls with the girls and the boys with the boys. But during the day, they're all together. Sometimes they're in their dens, and sometimes they are all together as a big group.
Yep. I wanted to make sure that was covered so we didn't have any confusion. Awesome. But
Sure.
Other than that, that's it.
All right, that's a lot of great information. I want to thank everyone on the call, and I want to thank you for your patience. We did it as quickly as I think we can. It's a lot of information, but thank you. Be safe. Shoot us an email at info@camp.wanocksett.org and bring those scouts to camp. We'll see you in less than 5 months if you're a week one. So